here with great bass player Warren Joubert. Warren, can you tell us about your first musical experience?
Hey, Daniel, thank you very much for this opportunity. Hey, you really took me back very far in the sense of when I started thinking about my first musical experience, I remember I stayed Fids when I was 5. My cousin and I did the song, Mama, He's Making Eyes at Me. And that was sort of the first time I remember actually music or a musical experience that I've had. Um, Subsequently, what happened, I remember doing mini steps to music on the piano, but never progressed until maybe I got to university level when I noticed, hey, everybody's playing an instrument, maybe I should pick up something. And I started with the guitar, actually, in that sense. And if I have to be honest, and I think it was to impress a girl, I mean, she's my wife now, but it was basically to impress a girl.
Okay, so Warren, can you tell us why you chose the bass guitar?
I don't know really. The reason I chose the bass, because it's dirty. I don't know. There's lots of things about it that I basically enjoy. When you're standing next to a bass amp at a church, it's like it's resonating throughout your body. You can actually feel it. With other instruments, I don't know if it's necessarily the case. I don't feel when I'm playing the guitar. I don't feel when I'm playing the piano. But, when I start playing the notes on the bass, you feel it. So maybe I think that to me is probably the biggest reason why I'm really enjoying it. And also, you know, it's that connection between what's happening rhythmically and what's happening harmonically through the music. It's almost like you, and also, yeah, I'm quite a shy guy. People wouldn't say that necessarily, but I like to be at the back. Not necessarily taking the shine. Yeah, not necessarily taking the shine, but just sort of supporting everybody and trying to find my own place. So that's probably the main reason why I preferred playing the bass, I would say.
Tell me something. Did you go for music lessons or you self-taught?
Well, I do have some formal training. It's very limited in a sense. So I never did anything, even at church-wise. I did mini steps as a kid, but then at university, I was like, maybe I should try and see if it's not possible to up my theory game. To understand music a little better, to understand how things are connected to each other from a musical point of view. So what I did was I enrolled for a certificate program at the University of Stellenbosch that was administered by Felicia Lesch at the time. So everybody at the time, it was sort of one of those programs where they were attempted to get the community who was not formally trained in music to bridge, to have such a bridging course between to study music as a BMAS formally. But I basically just did that certificate program at the University of Stellenbosch, and I did it a couple of times actually, to just ensure.
So how long was the certificate?
So it's a 2-year course, basically. So it's a 2-year course that you do that takes you all the way from all of the basics. And once you get out after the 2 years, it's got a theory aspect associated and also practical. So you get a teacher that once a week you guys have to do a practical, the one-on-one practical. And the aim, I think, of the course was at the end of your 2-year course, you are actually you have all of the capabilities to actually go and study a BMAS. So to actually do the academic side of music. But say, as I mentioned, I only did the 2-year program basically, and for me it was basically just so that I can read music, to understand the connections between the notes and not just play by ear. I have a fairly decent ear, and I can see when that's off and that's not on. And so I've got a decent ear, but an ear, I don't think it's enough. Music just opens up. Yeah, music just opens up when you actually have a little bit of theory to support why certain things are being done on an instrument.
Like we have a friend in common that's currently teaching you.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Okay. So in terms of teachers, right? So I've had a couple of teachers throughout this program. You know, initially I started off on guitar, doing that certificate program. Graham Pringle was my music teacher on classical guitar, basically at the time. Then Chantal Willie was basically my mentor for 1 year during my certificate program. And then after Chantal Willie, I had Alex Myers. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a bass player here in Cape Town. Excellent guy. Also very academically minded, you know, and really thinks layers of music, you know, and really inspired me to some extent. And currently, I'm still being taught, you know. So I feel like I'm continuously growing. I started late, you know. I'm quite a late bloomer. So I still have a music teacher, and Sean Johannes is currently my mentor slash, you know, Zen master, you know. So yeah, he's currently, and I'm thoroughly enjoying, you know. I mean, the music, the instrument just opens up when you interacting with somebody else in terms of, you know, having some sort of guided training in terms of your progress, you know. You can see it actually, and if you don't have that sort of mentorship, or you know, you get really frustrated in the sense that you're not really growing, you know. So I'm really enjoying the time that I'm currently spending with Sean Johannes.
That's good, man. That's good.
Yeah.
And it's good to find somebody that you can connect with, you know.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So, you know, I mean, I don't know if I don't want to talk too much about Sean, you know, his head might get get really big. But, you know, the kind of person and that he is, not just musically, but the person he really wants, he's encouraged by seeing you grow, you know. He's so humble, and his humility, I think, is really something else, you know, and that's super encouraging, you know. And you know, personally, I just decided I have to put myself out there, because I'm not going to get better if I don't. But then also his foundation from a musical perspective, you know, and you know, I feel to some extent that's currently being transferred to me, you know. Like he can break things down to the most minute detail, and you know, in that way we sort of figure out the building blocks of, you know, how major chords formed, you know, what's, you know, the intervallic values between different things, you know, where, you know, it's just absolutely amazing to sort of get that sort of input from somebody. And you know, it's something that you can probably learn by yourself, but the effort that it'll take, you know, it just takes you so much more time. If you don't have somebody that you can continuously bounce things off, and I'm stuck with this, so he's really, I mean, I'm super impressed, you know, and he's one of my heroes as well, you know.
Good for you.
Cool.
Warren, can you tell me about the artists and the bands that you're playing for?
Okay, so just in terms, so I've played in church for a very long time, and you know, we'll probably get to this a little bit later, but I'm currently playing for a band called Zamar, and we're sort of a five-piece classical pop, world music type music. We have the back line, which is myself on bass. We've got Philip van Meulen on guitar, Ronald Sigelaar on drums, and then we have two sort of melodic instruments. The violin is Veronica Bell, and on accordion we have Monica Stuklik-Kahl. And so we sort of have this mesh of some classical music, but not formally classical, with a nice rhythm section associated with it, you know. So we play lots of things like, we'll play Vivaldi or Paganini's variations, or add some Bach music into it. But then we will add some, Veronica is our music director, so she basically arranges most of the music, but all of us sort of give input to some extent. We could do something here or there. And so that's the band that I'm currently playing for.
Sorry, so this is a lot of classical music, so I suppose like there's a lot of charts.
Oh yeah.
Reading.
Yes. So you know, it's quite funny. Sometimes we will get to a rehearsal, and Veronica will just give everybody a chart and say, let's rehearse, you know. So you're reading, you know,
has to go at
It
the
has to
level.
be, yeah, it has to be there. But as I mentioned again, I'm quite late to reading, so my reading is not, I wouldn't say I'm completely fluent. I can read music, but I'm not completely fluent, It'll still takes me time, count the lines, what's in between the lines, that's an F sharp, So so that's still there. But yes, it's absolutely for me, I found, it just opened up. But yes, we do have that. So, and also the other thing about our band is that everybody has a part.
Yeah.
So all of the classical lines, yes, a lot of us, we cover each other and things like that. If I forget to play a certain line that needs to be played, it's like, we missed it. But there's still a lot enough happening that, people that know would, there's something
Yeah,
missing
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah,
People that have seen us before, or knows that that was the way that the music was written. So so yeah, that's a little bit about the band that I'm, and how I joined the band was also actually quite, to some extent, I would say serendipitous or fortunate. It's because, you know, I was playing at church a lot. I had a friend, Heine Jack. I don't know if you're familiar
She's
with
also a
him.
bass player, right?
Also a bass player,
Yeah.
yeah. And we're very close friends. And he used to play in the band Zamar. And then about 2 years ago, he said that he's moving on to other things. He doesn't want to, but he will suggest to the band that maybe I can sort of take his place. And I grabbed the opportunity with both hands. I was like, yes, and
Finally,
yeah,
finally.
all of this effort that I've put in, all of this time, nobody. I mean, when you're playing at church, you can be discouraged quite a lot,
Every
But
Sunday.
every Sunday, but there's a commitment there, that you have to stick it out, and I've played here and there, church events, conferences, things like that. Um, but we never really put a band together. We're missing out a lot of things here. There's lots of other things. At church, I did. I don't know if we have to get into that somewhat as well.
You want to?
Um, I learned a lot from lots of people at church as well. Um, I remember Theo Valentine. He was one of, we missed that out now. He was one of the first sort of people that actually, you always ask, how do I learn this? Yes. And he was one of the people that I remember, putting in a lot of effort. Yes. So, and then, the other thing about the band, I remember my first experience. It was like they said, "Okay, Warren, you're going to join the band now." I was like, "Okay, but they have a set repertoire already. Like they can keep you busy for like 3 hours already." And I remember I was like, "Yes, we'll do it." Maybe towards. And then there was one. Um, they were telling me, "Okay, Warren, in 2 weeks' time, we're playing a concert at the Fisma Hall here with the classical at the conservatorium at the university." I was like, okay, let's go. Deep end, there you go. So I remember agonizing over the lines and worrying about, I'm going to miss that note, etc., etc. But the concert was, that was sort of my first, like, and you know what it did? It almost just settled me into the band. It was like, it's not that bad, I can actually do
Sometimes
this,
the mind,
the mind.
the mind is terrible.
Yeah, so I can actually do this, and then, then I started really putting in. I think that's actually when I really started taking music a lot more serious, because now I'm in this professional band
With charts and everything.
with charts and like you will read
paid.
and you're getting paid, you will read, bad boy. Yeah, and then I was like, okay, no, you have to up your game, because I think before that, yes, you take it serious, but you're playing at church, you start getting very familiar with the music. It's a 1 4 5 progression, add the six every now and then. It's you 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 get content and comfortable to some extent. Yes, you want to grow, but it's only when you start really playing with people that you're like, hey, these people are
thinking outside of
serious.
the box.
No, these people are serious. You better lift your game. So that is, yeah. So that's my latest, basically. And for me, it's like a highlight of my life type of thing to play in this band. It's almost like dreams come true type of
Yeah,
thing, you
yeah.
know. And to an extent, I didn't even know I had the dream until I started really playing with that band, you know. So yeah, to me, that's basically my current iteration. We went to the studio last year to record a a bunch of songs that we were thinking of putting on Spotify. I think all of the music is complete, but we sort of haven't done that last step
Yeah,
of
yeah.
basically putting the music onto Spotify. And even there, you know, again, a learning curve of note, you know, because everybody talks studio
Yeah, yeah.
up to some extent, you know, that click, you know, if your time is not right, you know, like
And it
how you're
scares you
gonna, it
with it.
scares you,
Yeah,
you know, you're really concerned. You're like, will I be able to? But you know, two takes later, and you're like, oh, this is what it's about, you know, and
yeah,
you start really sitting and getting comfortable and getting into things, you know. So yeah,
yeah. That's a very interesting story, man.
cool, man.
Warren, your
Gear
gear,
wise.
you have lovely gear, man.
You know, again, it's only when I started getting really serious. You know, I used to play with the church's guitar for a very long time. You know, church had a fantastic Ibanez SR 500 4 string, you know, with the Bartolini pickups. And what is awesome about that bass is the tone. You know what you know. I remember, you know, the church also had a Fender made in Mexico jazz bass. You know, but I would prefer playing with that Ibanez, just because the tone. You know, you could sort of fool around with it and
Yeah, there's
just
a lot
get
of
some nice tones out there. But then after a while, I realized, hey, but this is Fender, you know. I was like, okay, so I've got a good experience on that. But again, I used to take the church's bass home, and that's where I used to sit and get familiar and comfortable with the instrument. And then a while back, say about 2 or 3 years back, I got this instrument, partly because um, to some extent, six strings is more amenable to the type of music that we are playing in Zamar,
yeah.
you know. So yes, you can probably do all of the things that I can do on a 4 string in the band. You can, you know. But you know, there's a whole nother register that is opening
the
up over
range is
here. The
much
range
bigger.
is much bigger, and on the other side, you know. So on a 4 string, you would have to jump around, you know. But yeah, I mean, I'm in one position. You move up,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
move down. You're in the same spot. So this is a Warwick. You know, I don't know why I like Warwick. You know, I've seen all of the fantastic players playing with Warwick. It's a Korean-made Warwick streamer. Yes. So again, how in fact, this is also fantastic story. I've got this Warwick and I've got this Yamaha TRB. This one is fretless. It's a new addition to my sort of gear. But what happened was there used to be a music shop that I used to go to, and I always eyed the Yamaha TRB. There was something about the tone, something about the weight of the bass, everything. It just felt right every time. But it was always out of my price range. You know, I never had enough money to buy it. Then, um, then, looking at the same shop, they brought in a Warwick, also a streamer, also Chinese made or whatever. And I started playing with the Warwick. I was like, yo, the low end on this bass, there's something completely different. So that's basically how I got to like, really. You know, I don't think my gear is still, how shall I say, it's finished yet, because I'm sure somewhere along the line, my collection is definitely going to grow, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
This is not necessarily the end. But this is the bass that I'm playing with most of the time, in gigs, wherever I go. I'm quite new to fretless. It's got a completely different, nuances and feel to it. So yeah, and then bass or amplification wise, I used to play Ashdown Mag 300 with two 12s, I think, a combo amp. But I've always, it's just I've liked having a head separately. Doesn't really make a big difference. And getting into Mark bass, also an interesting story. We played a gig at the Silos maybe 2 years back. it's an open air gig. And you know, backline setup is already set up with the sound company. Sean Johannes, this band, they were playing salsa music and we were playing our sort of classical tango vibe. And so we went before Sean and them, and there was this little Mark bass, small 10-inch speakers, you know. I switched that thing on. I was like, my goodness, my goodness, is this it? Anyways, I was blown away completely by that small Mark bass amp, and I think that's where I actually fell in love with Mark bass. So it's always been on my sort of radar that when I have enough money, one day when I've saved up enough, I'm definitely going to get. And this amp, you know, also it happened really, I don't think I was going to get it unless I met Sean. You know, he sort of just phone this guy, he might be able to hook you up. Because I was fine with the Ashdown that I had. Then I was like, okay, maybe what I'll do is I'll sell my Ashdown, and it just sort of happened, you know. And then within a week, I was like, oh, I've got this rig now, you know. I still had to tell my wife how much it cost, but anyways, it's done now. No, she knows now, you know. It's so that's basically that's what I'm playing with. You know, I haven't really had it. I've had 1 or 2 gigs with it at the moment, so I haven't really had a chance to put it through its paces yet. But absolutely in love with it at the moment. The range and the tone. I like to play things on sort of the flat, or you know, sort of, because I feel like, you know, my tone to some extent contributes to, you know, the collective band setup, you know. So yeah, I talk too much anyways.
That's very interesting, man. Do you have any advice for young up-and-coming bass players?
You know, persistence is probably the thing. You know, I'm quite late to music, but I'm sure that I'm going to stick this out, you know. You know, I might start a band when I'm 60 or 70. Start a band, you know. So, but in order for me to start a band at that age, you know, I have to make sure that I put in the miles for that, you know. So my advice to people would be to be persistent. The other thing that I would also say is that there's a place under the sun for everybody, you know. You see spectacular musicians out there, and also people that are completely beginning. To me, you know, everyone is somewhere on that spectrum. And you need to sort of find your own voice and find your own space within that spectrum, you know, and not sort of cower away or be overly sort of, look at me type of thing, you know. Find your space, know where you are, be persistent. And that would be my sort of advice to up-and-coming bassists. I'm also up-and-coming, so.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Warren, thank you so much for making time for me, for making time for From the Cape with Bass. Godspeed on your journey.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for liking and sharing this video with your fellow bass community. Please follow From the Cape with Bass on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you so much.